There had been racing at Doncaster since Elizabethan times, so there'd been a racing tradition, but it was not the most important course in Yorkshire. That was the Knavesmire at York. In 1760s they introduced what is the Gold Cup. Then the St Leger was introduced. After 20-30 years it kind of reached the beginning of a golden age, and from that point Doncaster superseded York and became the most important racing venue in the north. Many people say in the country.
In our collection at Doncaster we have around 200 paintings related to horses and also to the St Leger in particular, and it really reflects the importance that the St Leger as a race has had to the history of the town. The exhibition is called A Day at the Races, and annually we're now doing an exhibition relating to the St Leger because the St Leger has become a big festival in Doncaster which takes place every year. So each year we look at different facets in our collection related to racing imagery.
The St Leger Stakes is a race which began in the 1770s, and it was unique. Beforehand, racing had been dominated by heats of 4 miles, run 4 times, so a horse runs 60 miles in a day. And the St Leger was a new kind of race. It was called a dash of 2 miles, later reduced to 1 mile and 6 furlongs. It was a revolutionary kind of race, which revolutionised horse racing. I think it's very glamorous, and of course it attracted the upper levels in society who had the wherewithal to employ painters. Stubbs is one, Herring, Pollard being 2 of the famous ones from the beginning of the 19th century. The story is that Herring, as a young man, lived adjacent to the Great North Road and saw carriages bearing the name Doncaster and was always impressed and always had this feeling that he wondered what the town was like. He decided to make a move, and in 1814 landed in the town. The story is that he was deposited next to Town Moor, saw this incredible spectacle of the 1814 St Leger, and was inspired to paint pictures from that time. What was important about his work in Doncaster was that he painted a series of St Leger winners, this being the first, Philo da Puta, Little Feet, in 1815. That series of paintings was commissioned by a Doncaster publisher called William Sheardown, and prints were made that became a kind of benchmark of quality for equine art.
When people look at the exhibition, I suppose they're looking back in history really. They'll look at how the actual architecture of the racecourse has changed. And obviously a lot of people won't realise how long the race has been run for it. The St Leger itself is the oldest classic horse race, so it will give an insight looking back almost to the beginning of that actual race. This is going to be one of the stars of the exhibition. It's Charles Simpson's finish of the 1931 St Leger with Sandwich crossing the finishing line quite a long way ahead of the rest of the field. It's one of my favourite paintings in the collection. I trained as a painter myself, as an artist, and I've always admired the kind of handling of the paint in this picture and the sort of the design of the painting really. I just think so beautiful with these bands of sky and then the trees that run along Borcher Road. Then we've got the free course here, which is where the main crowds were gathered in those days with all these little kind of blobs of paint which describe the people. Then we've got this beautiful strip of green, which is a lovely sort of abstract kind of design really, isn't it? And then these little figures of the horses that just animate it so beautifully. And then in the foreground, of course, we've got the kind of the main race goers, the ones that have paid for the privilege of being there. But they're also beautifully painted with these little blobs of colour, these little squiggles. Every time I look at it, I just think it's astonishing. Yes, so you remember when the picture was first painted then?
Yes, yeah. I think it was 59 or 10. And the first image I remember of it completed was when my father had it photographed at the back of the house outside, and there's a big brick wall and he's just stood by the painting. My father's Joseph Appleyard, known to all his friends as Joe. He was an art tutor, a professional artist, but in his latter 2 years I would estimate he was making a living commercially just out of painting pictures.
The bit I've really loved about this picture is this detail down the left with the figures at the bottom, and then the list of runners and riders.
One of the reasons I look forward to the picture going on exhibition is the fact that not only does it sort of keep my father's name in profile, but it keeps the jockey's names in profile, because there's jockeys there I remember from a child who are still alive. Pigott, Mercer, Hyde.
I think artists are attracted to horsey themes because of the variety of life that it gives them in a way. You've got the focus of the racing, you've got the landscape that the racing takes place in, you've got the architecture of the stands, and you've got the crowds as well, which in a number of paintings are actually as important or more important than the actual depiction of the horses. So there's a whole range of things for the artist to go at. Because we're looking at images from over 200 years really, it tells us of the history of Doncaster, and the annual St Leger brings in thousands and thousands of people, and it's a big part of the local economy. So it reflects the role that race and horse racing in general has had in the life of the town.